Before crypto scams and Wall Street fraud, there were train robbers, counterfeiters, and crooked bankers rewriting the rules of the Wild West. These outlaws didn't just steal gold, they hacked the entire economy. They found the loopholes, exploited the cracks, and built fortunes on a system barely held together. Today, we're diving into the 1800s to expose how the Old West's most cunning criminals manipulated money, outsmarted banks, and reshaped frontier finance. The 1800s American frontier wasn't just lawless, it was financially chaotic. Banks were unregulated, currencies varied wildly, and entire towns popped up overnight. Some used U.S. dollars. Others traded gold dust. Some even used private script printed by local businesses. There was no federal oversight, no real-time communication, and no ID systems. If you were smart or ruthless enough, you could bend this system to your will. Let's break down the biggest economic hacks in the Wild West. Fake banks and fraudulent loans. So-called wildcat banks were established in the middle of nowhere. Wildcat banks were unregulated banks that popped up in remote frontier areas, especially after Andrew Jackson killed the Second Bank of the United States in 1836. With no central authority, anyone with a printing press and a safe could call themselves a banker. They printed their own currency, took in real deposits, then disappeared overnight. Victims were left holding worthless paper backed by nothing. It was the 1800s version of a rug pull. The Georgia Wildcat Bank scandal, Georgia, allowed banks to issue currency if they had sufficient assets. One banker used Confederate bonds and worthless land deeds as collateral. When a run on the bank happened, it folded instantly, taking many citizens' life savings with it. James R. Townsend was a counterfeiter kingpin, active primarily in the mid-1800s, operating out of Ohio, Indiana, and Missouri, all hotbeds for financial fraud during the free banking era. His gang was notorious for mass-producing fake silver dollars that were so convincing they circulated freely across multiple states for years. This wasn't a basement operation. This was a mobile criminal enterprise. Townsend's gang created dies and molds to mint their own coins. They used base metals like lead and pewter, then coated them in silver or polished them to match the sheen of real currency. These fakes weighed nearly the same as real silver dollars, which meant merchants, banks, and even other counterfeiters got fooled. One U.S. Marshal called it the most durable and deceptive false coin to cross my palm in 20 years. The coins reportedly circulated in Illinois, Indiana, Missouri, Kentucky, even as far south as Arkansas. Some estimates suggest over $100,000 worth of fake silver, millions in today's money, was in active circulation before authorities began to connect the dots. After a multi-state investigation, Townsend and several gang members were arrested in 1860. Authorities found a full minting setup: metal presses, molds, dyes, acid solutions, and crates of fake coins. Townsend was sentenced to a long prison term, but by then, much of the fake currency had already warped local economies. Local banks and merchants suffered huge losses once the fakes were discovered. Trust in physical currency declined. People began demanding gold or silver specie only. It fueled calls for tighter regulation, leading to the National Banking Acts and eventually the Secret Service's creation in 1865, specifically to combat counterfeiters. During the Gold Rush era, 1848 to 1860s, and beyond, especially in California, Colorado, Montana, and Alaska, there was often no official paper currency or coin supply in remote mining towns. So people used raw gold dust as a form of everyday money. You could buy meals, pay saloon tabs, pay miners' wages, even buy land. But here's the problem. There were no standardized weights or purity checks. The scam, gold dust manipulation. Con men and dishonest prospectors learned to game the system by salting their gold dust, a form of everyday fraud that was incredibly effective. Common tricks: pyrite, fool's gold, mixed with real gold to pad weight and volume, shiny enough to fool the eye in dim saloons or candlelit general stores. Lid shavings or fine shot, nearly identical in weight to gold, especially when mixed into dust bags. Fine yellow sand or mica, used in dry, dusty towns where merchants weren't careful with magnifiers or touchstones. Wet dust tricks. Wetting gold dust added weight, especially in sealed pouches or when just dug up. Shaved coins. Crooks would shave real gold coins, collect the dust, then pass both the shavings and the coin as full-value items. Real-life effects. Merchants and saloons lost serious money when they later weighed or assayed the dust. Trust plummeted. Some towns started refusing gold dust altogether unless tested first. The scams forced private assayers and mints to pop up, some legit, many not. Eventually, in places like San Francisco and Denver, official coinage and banknotes replaced raw gold by the 1860s to 70s. Example: Deadwood, Dakota Territory. In 1877, reports from Deadwood indicated that over 40% of gold dust used in transactions had been adulterated, mostly with pyrite and iron flakes. That caused massive inflation in goods pricing and led to multiple bankruptcies of honest merchants. Why this matters today? It's a classic example of a trust-based financial system being exploited due to lack of regulation. A perfect Old West, parallel to today's crypto rug pulls, fake gold ETFs, or inflated fiat systems. Eventually, the system pushed back. Private detective agencies like the Pinkertons became financial watchdogs. Telegraph networks allowed banks to send alerts across states. Merchants formed coalitions to blacklist known swindlers. And slowly, the seeds of federal banking regulation took root. Think this all sounds familiar? It should. Today, we see echoes of these schemes in modern bank fraud, Ponzi schemes, and crypto scams. Whether it's fake coins in a saloon or a worthless NFT online, the game hasn't changed. Only the tools have. From counterfeiting coins to manipulating gold dust, these outlaws weren't just criminals. They were financial tacticians. Their schemes forced America to adapt, regulate, and eventually evolve its economic systems. If you enjoyed this dive into outlaw economics, saddle up and subscribe to Gold and Guns. Next episode, we're riding into the gold rush to answer one question: who actually got rich?